Accuplacer Arithmetic. Question 1. Stamp collecting being a hobby that is sometimes used in the schools to teach economics and social studies. Is a hobby being a hobby, as a hobby, is a hobby. The sentence requires a main verb. Is a hobby provides the main verb is making it an independent clause. Question 2. Knocked sideways, the statue looked as if it would fall. Knocked sideways, the statue looked. Knocked sideways, the statue looking. Knocking sideways, the statue looked. The statue knocked sideways, looking. The original phrase is grammatically correct as it correctly modifies the subject statue with the past participle phrase knocked sideways. Question 3. To walk, biking, and driving are Pat's favorite ways of getting around. To walk, biking, and to drive. Walking, biking, and driving. To walk, to bike, and driving. Walking, to bike, and driving. Parallel structure requires the items in the series to be in the same grammatical form. Walking, biking, and driving uses gerunds for all three. Question 4. When you cross the street in the middle of the block, this is an example of jaywalking. When crossing the street in the middle of the block, this. You crossing the street in the middle of the block. Crossing the street in the middle of the block. To cross the street in the middle of the block, this. Crossing the street in the middle of the block acts as a concise gerund phrase serving as the subject of the sentence. Question 5. Walking by the corner the other day, a child, I noticed, was watching for the light to change. A child, I noticed, was watching. I noticed a child watching. A child was watching, I noticed. I noticed that a child, watching. The modifying phrase walking by the corner the other day must modify I, not the child. Option B places I directly after the modifier. Question 6. Going back to his old school, everything there looked smaller than Don remembered. Going back to his old school, everything. When he went back to his old school. As he goes back to his old school, everything. Going back to his old school, Don remembered everything. The original sentence has a dangling modifier. When he went back to his old school, creates a dependent clause with a clear subject, fixing the error. Question 7. Painting, drawing and to sculpt are some of the techniques artists such as Picasso used to express themselves. Painting, to draw and sculpting. To paint, drawing, and to sculpt. Painting, drawing, and sculpting. Painting, drawing and to be sculpting. Parallelism requires all listed items to have the same form. Painting, drawing, and sculpting all use the ing gerund form. Question 8. Playing sports in school, which is an activity meant to teach teamwork and leadership skills students can use later in life, is an activity which. Being an activity. As an activity. Is an activity. The sentence is a fragment because it lacks a main verb. Replacing which is an activity with is an activity provides the necessary main verb. Question 9. Glancing at his watch, Daniel picked up his speed. Glancing at his watch. He glanced at his watch. To glance at his watch. Daniel glancing at his watch. The original sentence is correct. The participial phrase glancing at his watch correctly modifies Daniel. Question 10. For a snake, shedding their skin up to 8 times a year is part of a natural process. A snake shedding their skin. A snake's shedding its skin. Shedding their skin for a snake. A snake sheds their skin. Snake is singular, so it requires the singular pronoun its rather than their. Question 11. I was surprised by the noise peering through the window to see who was at the door. Peering through the window I was surprised by the noise. I peered through the window surprised by the noise. Surprised by the noise peering through the window. Surprised by the noise, I peered. The original sentence has a misplaced modifier. Surprised by the noise correctly modifies I, and the sequence of events is clear. Question 12. It is easy to carry solid objects without spilling them, but the same cannot be said of liquids. Rewrite, beginning with unlike liquids. Solid objects are easily. It is easy to carry solid objects. Solid objects can easily be. Carrying solid objects is easy. The rewrite creates the sentence unlike liquids, solid objects can easily be carried without spilling. This correctly compares liquids to solid objects. Question 13. Although the sandpiper is easily frightened by noise and light, it will bravely resist any force that threatens its nest. Rewrite, beginning with the sandpiper is easily frightened by noise and light, the next words will be, but it will bravely resist, and it will bravely resist, so it will bravely resist, yet bravely resisting. The rewrite creates a compound sentence, the sandpiper is easily frightened by noise and light, but it will bravely resist. Retaining the original contrast. Question 14. If he had enough strength, Todd would move the boulder. Rewrite, beginning with Todd cannot move the boulder, so he does not have, because he, unless he has, due to him. The rewritten sentence changes the conditional statement to a statement of cause and effect. Todd cannot move the boulder because he does not have enough strength. Question 15. The band began to play, and then the real party started. Rewrite, beginning with the real party started. After the band began. When the band begins. Before the band began. During the band beginning. The sequence of events is preserved by using after the real party started after the band began to play. Question 16. Chris heard no unusual noises when he listened in the park. Rewrite, beginning with listening in the park, the next words will be, no unusual noises were heard. Unusual noises were not heard. Hearing no unusual noises. Chris heard no unusual noises. To avoid a dangling modifier, the subject Chris must immediately follow the introductory phrase listening in the park. Question 17. It is unusual to see owls during the daytime, since they are nocturnal animals. Rewrite, beginning with being nocturnal animals. Daytime is unusual for owls. Owls are not usually seen. It is unusual to see owls. Seeing owls is unusual. The introductory phrase being nocturnal animals must immediately be followed by the subject it modifies, which is owls. Question 18. If I want your opinion, I will ask for it. Rewrite, beginning with I won't ask for your opinion. If I don't want it. Because I want it. Therefore I want it. Unless I want it. Unless means if not. The rewritten sentence, I won't ask for your opinion unless I want it, retains the exact meaning of the original. Question 19. It began to rain, and everyone at the picnic ran to the trees to take shelter. Rewrite, beginning with everyone at the picnic ran to the trees to take shelter. After it begins to rain. When it began to rain. Because raining began. While it had begun to rain. The conjunction when accurately connects the two clauses to show the sequence and cause of the action. Question 20. Lucy saw an amazing sight when she witnessed her first sunrise. Rewrite, beginning with witnessing her first sunrise. An amazing sight was seen. The sight was amazing. Lucy saw an amazing sight. Witnessing was amazing for Lucy. The participial phrase witnessing her first sunrise must be followed immediately by the noun it modifies, Lucy. Question 21. After 3 hours of walking the museum, the entire family felt in need of a rest. Rewrite, beginning with the entire family felt in need of a rest. After 3 hours of walk. Having walked through the museum for 3 hours. When walking for 3 hours. Walking the museum for 3 hours. The perfect participle having walked correctly indicates an action completed before the feeling of needing a rest. Question 22. The big celebration meal was over, and everyone began to feel sleepy. Rewrite, beginning with everyone began to feel sleepy. During the big celebration meal. Before the big celebration meal. After the big celebration meal. When the big celebration meal. The preposition after establishes the correct chronological order of the events described in the original sentence.